What if a single explosion could rattle the entire security structure of Europe in one night? Imagine this. Just outside Lviv, beneath a moonless sky, a sudden flash erupts, so fierce it carves the darkness in two. That blast was not merely a local catastrophe. Its shockwaves raced from Berlin to Brussels, shaking the foundations of Europe's defenses and rewriting the rules overnight. In mere moments, billions of euros in Western military aid simply vanished. At the heart of the inferno, a clandestine shipment of German Taurus missiles, meticulously concealed and meant for Ukraine's front lines, destroyed before they could ever be unpacked. This was never supposed to be possible. The plan hinged on encrypted communications, trusted supply chains, and the quiet confidence that Western logistics were beyond reach. Yet, with one pinpoint strike, Russian forces exposed a hidden weakness, unraveling years of careful investment and strategic planning. The fallout extends far beyond lost equipment. NATO's credibility, Germany's standing, and the entire Western approach to arming Ukraine now teeter on a knife's edge. For military planners and political leaders, the urgent questions multiply. How did Russia find and hit such a protected convoy? What does this reveal about the future of intelligence, surveillance, and warfare across Europe? If we fail to grasp the lessons lurking in this night's chaos, we risk blinding ourselves to the true power of modern intelligence and how quickly fortunes and strategies can be reversed. To understand how one explosion changed everything, we must pull back the curtain and examine what really happened that night near Lviv. The story begins with a convoy moving under the cover of darkness, believed to be invisible, yet already in the crosshairs. Let's trace each step leading to that fateful moment. How did a region once considered untouchable become the epicenter of disaster overnight? That question gripped Lviv as the calm was ripped apart. A flash so fierce it turned midnight into blazing noon. Within moments, a shockwave thundered across scores of kilometers, shattering windows and nerves all the way to the Polish border. Confusion reigned in the aftermath. Social media was ablaze with unfiltered chaos. Fireballs towering above the city, a mushroom cloud clawing skyward, secondary explosions flashing long into the night. These were not the images of a routine attack. They spoke of something far graver. As panic spread, official voices retreated. Statements from Ukrainian authorities were vague and cautious, mentioning only a strike on a fuel depot. But the scale of destruction, the relentless detonations, and the torrent of eyewitness accounts pointed to a disaster of a different order. Before dawn, satellite images circulated among experts, revealing a ravaged rail yard west of Lviv. The evidence was irrefutable. This was not just a fuel dump, but the obliteration of a massive munitions cache. Witnesses described the ground shaking and the night sky blazing with powerful, repeated blasts, clear hallmarks of advanced weaponry, not oil. In that single blinding moment, billions of euros in arms were erased, but the consequences cut deeper. The loss was not just physical, but informational. When early reports are muddled and official answers evasive, the truth is the first casualty, leaving decision-makers blind to the warning signs that precede catastrophe. All eyes now turned westward, searching for answers and culprits. The shock was not just what was lost, but what it revealed about the new face of warfare in Europe. What if the true front line is hidden, pulsing through encrypted data streams rather than open battlefields? Near Lviv, that night's explosion was not just the echo of munitions. It was the violent crescendo of a war waged in silence, where code and secrecy dictate victory or defeat. The obliterated train did not simply carry supplies. It was a ghost convoy, smuggling German Taurus cruise missiles toward Ukraine, each component masked as relief aid. Every missile, worth millions of euros, represented not just technological prowess, but also the fierce, unresolved debates raging in Berlin's corridors. The operation unfolded in total shadow, circumventing every oversight mechanism in the German parliament. It was a high-stakes gamble, a deliberate sidestep past legal constraints, meant to keep the mission invisible, but ultimately making it vulnerable in new ways. Yet secrecy is a fragile shield. Russian intelligence, possibly wielding artificial intelligence and sophisticated pattern analysis, tore through layers of obfuscation. They pieced together hints from satellite snapshots, intercepted whispers, and logistical oddities, tracing the train's secret path. In the digital age, a stray byte can be deadlier than a bullet. How did this operation unravel? Theories swirl. A single misplaced password, an insider's betrayal, a lapse in cybersecurity. The chilling question emerges: if NATO's most sensitive shipments can be unmasked so thoroughly, what does this reveal about the West's vulnerability to digital espionage and sabotage? The fallout is vast. Underestimating cyber threats and digital leaks has put entire military strategies, political reputations, and even alliance unity at the mercy of unseen adversaries. The Lviv strike did not just destroy hardware, it shattered the myth of secure Western logistics. But the chain reaction was only beginning. The blast in Lviv sent political and diplomatic tremors rippling through the continent. Now, behind closed doors, leaders scramble to assess the damage. Every whisper and every keystroke suddenly carries new weight. Can Europe's security architecture withstand a fracture this deep? In the wake of that single surgical strike near Lviv, the shockwaves have not only obliterated concrete and steel, they have rattled the core of trust in Western military support. For Germany, the blow lands with historic force. Billions of euros in advanced weaponry, meticulously acquired and covertly dispatched, have disappeared in one night. But the political fallout proves even more corrosive. Bundestag members demand explanations, accusations of breached protocols swirl, and whispers of shadowy decisions grip Berlin. The Chancellor faces a rising tide of outrage, while opposition parties maneuver to exploit the scandal and destabilize the government's fragile standing. Yet the rupture does not stop at Germany's borders. NATO's reputation for operational security is suddenly, and very publicly, cast into doubt. Every future weapons transfer, whether to Ukraine or beyond, now bears the taint of possible compromise. Allies scramble to contain the damage, reviewing logistics, tightening information flows, rerouting critical shipments through unexpected partners, all in a frantic attempt to patch the alliance's battered defenses. Western capitals are forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The myth of unbreakable supply lines has been shattered. Internal dissent grows sharper. Some officials demand resignations, others call for sweeping reform. Trust in government machinery, already frayed by years of crisis, is hauled to the breaking point. At stake is not just hardware, not merely money, but the very foundation of secure support. If secrecy can no longer be assured, the power of alliances and the credibility of deterrence itself begin to crumble. In a single blinding moment, the rules of support, logistics, and war have all been upended. As the dust settles and the political tempest intensifies, a deeper lesson cuts through the chaos, one that outlasts missiles and ministers. The information age demands a new vigilance and a sobering redefinition of what it means to be secure. But as policymakers scramble to adapt, questions linger. Has the breach revealed a new era of vulnerability, or merely hastened changes already underway? The answer will shape every move in the conflict's next phase. In the era of artificial intelligence and omnipresent satellites, does any secret truly endure? The recent night near Lviv answered with ruthless clarity. Even the best-guarded operations can be laid bare in an instant. For those invested in Europe's security, the implications of this event are as urgent as they are unsettling. Total surveillance is no longer science fiction. Satellites, open-source intelligence, radio intercepts, and algorithmic analytics now merge billions of data points into a single, unblinking spotlight. No matter how covert the mission, the digital footprint is almost impossible to erase. Clandestine moves, once the pride of intelligence agencies, are now stalked by tireless algorithms that hunt for patterns and anomalies. This reality renders political strategies built on secrecy dangerously obsolete. No leader can safely assume that hush-hush deliveries, secret convoys, or classified deals will remain hidden. When secrets bleed out in real time, Every misstep grows, and trust, among allies and the public, can evaporate in moments. Cybersecurity is not a technical sidebar. In today's wars, it stands shoulder to shoulder with tanks and missiles. A single compromised server, one intercepted message, or a manipulated database can erase years of planning and billions of euros overnight. The digital battlefield is now as decisive as any front line. Future logistics must be anchored in transparency, resilience, and technological agility. Relying on secrecy to patch vulnerabilities is a losing game. Networks must be engineered to survive exposure, adapt instantly, and turn technology into an advantage, not just a cloak. These dangers are no longer hypothetical. Failing to adapt means more disasters, squandered resources, and the slow decay of public confidence. The cost of ignoring this new reality could be paid not only with euros and equipment, but with Europe's credibility itself. So as the smoke dissipates, what does this mean for those invested in Europe's future and security? After Lviv, the lesson is unmistakable. Survival depends on adaptation, not illusion. The old rules of secrecy are broken. What comes next will test every pillar of European strength. Will leaders adapt in time, or will the next shockwave devastate even more? What happened outside Lviv was not just another headline. It was a warning flare for every policymaker, general, and citizen clinging to old security beliefs. The annihilation of a single covert shipment erased not only billions of euros in hardware, but also the comfortable fiction that Western military aid can move unseen. This was no simple victory of firepower. It was the convergence of advanced surveillance, cyber intelligence, and fatal political miscalculation. A display that the hidden war of data and detection now decides who has the advantage. In a single night, years of faith in secret routes, protected borders, and silent deliveries were obliterated. If one train, disguised as humanitarian relief, can be tracked and destroyed despite the full shield of NATO secrecy, what else is vulnerable? The credibility of powerful states, their reputation, deterrence, and diplomacy can shatter in moments, along with the aid they send. Ignoring these lessons is not a minor gamble. It is a danger for every society that trusts in digital borders and encrypted signals. Artificial intelligence and relentless surveillance are rewriting the rules of conflict, turning old strategies into traps and exposing new, invisible weaknesses. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The next attack may not wait for a declaration, may not follow the patterns of past wars. Unless leaders face these new realities, the coming blow will be even more devastating and completely unpredictable. History is speeding up. Those who hesitate or cling to yesterday's models risk losing not just money or status, but their fundamental ability to shape events to come. But to truly grasp the gravity of the Lviv incident, let us look back at history and see how similar single moments have reshaped military doctrines and statecraft. Think of the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. The Japanese strike on the U.S. Pacific Fleet was a surprise that obliterated the notion of American invulnerability in its own waters. Overnight, the United States transformed from a nation at peace to a nation at war, with its military and industrial policy redirected for total mobilization. The shock of that event forced leaders to rethink every assumption about distance, surprise, and deterrence. Or consider the Yom Kippur War in 1973, when Egyptian and Syrian forces launched a coordinated attack on Israel during the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. The initial Israeli intelligence failure led to catastrophic losses, but the aftermath sparked sweeping reforms in intelligence sharing, early warning systems, and battlefield communications. Israel's security model was never the same again. The Lviv strike echoes these pivotal moments. It demonstrates that in modern conflict, events can escalate with dizzying speed. A single intelligence breach, a single overlooked anomaly in data, can produce consequences as severe as a fleet sunk in harbor or a front line overrun in the desert. But what practical steps can Europe and its allies take to avoid repeating the mistakes exposed by Lviv? The first is to modernize intelligence operations. Instead of relying solely on secrecy, Institutions must embrace distributed awareness, sharing threat data instantly, analyzing open-source intelligence, and using artificial intelligence to predict, rather than merely react to, enemy movements. Second, supply chains must be redesigned for resilience. Rather than funneling critical cargo through a handful of predictable routes, NATO and its partners should adopt a multi-nodal approach. Use smaller, less conspicuous shipments, multiply points of entry, and rotate logistical patterns, often enough to foil pattern recognition algorithms. Third, governments must establish real-time crisis cells that include not just military planners, but also cyber specialists, data scientists, and civilian technologists. These teams can monitor for breaches, simulate attacks, and rehearse responses as regularly as traditional military exercises. A fourth step is the cultivation of a robust culture of cybersecurity at every level. From the highest minister to the newest recruit, everyone must be trained to spot phishing, safeguard credentials, and recognize the signs of insider threat. One careless click or whispered secret can unravel an entire operation. Finally, the public must be kept informed, not in a way that exposes operational details, but in a manner that builds resilience to misinformation. When disaster strikes, confusion and rumor can be as damaging as the explosion itself. A transparent, credible communication strategy helps maintain social trust and prevent adversaries from exploiting panic. These practical steps are not theoretical. After the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the Soviet Union's initial denial and misinformation worsened the crisis and shattered public trust. By contrast, nations like Finland, which maintain a policy of open crisis communication and regular civil defense drills, have cultivated a far more resilient society in the face of both military and non-military threats. The Lviv incident must be a similar turning point. Europe's leaders should not simply lament the loss, but use it as a catalyst for transformation. Each lesson ignored increases the risk that the next disaster will be even more costly, perhaps not only in material, but in lives and the very cohesion of alliances. Imagine a future scenario. A shipment of vital air defense components, routed through Slovakia, is intercepted not by a missile, but by a coordinated cyber attack that disables its tracking, reroutes it into a dead end, and leaves it exposed for hours. The adversary does not need to fire a shot. Logistical paralysis alone achieves the goal. Without adaptation, such scenarios will become routine, not exceptional. Or picture a world where commercial satellite imagery, available to anyone with a credit card, reveals troop buildups or secret weapons transfers before even allies are notified. In that world, diplomatic denials ring hollow, and adversaries can preempt Western moves before they begin. The new reality is that security must be layered, adaptive, and always under review. Static defenses and rigid doctrines belong to the past. The future belongs to those who can learn, innovate, and respond faster than their adversaries can disrupt. As the reverberations of Lviv echo through parliaments and war rooms, the question yet stands. Will Europe's leaders rise to the occasion, or will inertia and denial pave the way for even deeper crises? The answer is unwritten. But if there is one certainty, it is that the next chapter will be decided not by the might of arsenals alone, but by the agility of minds, the integrity of systems, and the courage to see threats for what they are, no matter how uncomfortable the truth. In the end, the devastation near Lviv is not simply a tale of loss, but a challenge, a call to vigilance for every nation that depends on secrecy and technology to keep its people safe. The world is watching. The lesson is clear. Adapt or risk having history's next decisive moment written not by you, but about you.